Archwest, welcome. I'm just gonna be doing a search for examples from my old games today. I think it'll be potentially useful down the line for some of my on-stream content. So we're gonna see a lot of my old games. My day's pretty good. Thanks for asking. I hope you're doing well too. Let's see. In this game, I had white. This is my first game in my database from like a real tournament or something. I removed all the Scholastic games. Those are in a separate database. So this is from Super Nationals 2009, which is technically a Scholastic event, I guess, but I left it in because it's a pretty high-profile Scholastic tournament from, what year was this? Probably like 2010, I guess. Or 2009. And it's funny how in one of my first games I played Sicilian, because I really had no idea. I just chose that move. I didn't prepare anything, even though it was Super Nationals. I just didn't know about like coaching and preparation and stuff. To me, it was just like a silly game at the time. Just looking for interesting moments here. Things worth sharing. Do I still play the Sicilian? Yes, I do actually. I play the Sicilian pretty often, and I get it with both colors because I'm playing e4 a lot too. But I play all openings now. This game might be a good candidate for inclusion. For example, this move knight g4 is a good idea strategically, and it's something that people probably wouldn't know about at the level where I was playing if they hadn't studied it ahead of time. It's just a generally good concept to get rid of this bishop for this knight. So this is something that I could potentially include. Just to illustrate a little bit about like what the deal is here. If they go here, then there's e5, and then they're just losing a piece. And if they go here, then there's h6, and just normal play. Like this knight could get kicked, it doesn't really matter. Probably f3 is a better way to kick it. So in order for them to avoid losing the bishop for the knight, they have to go through some convoluted hoop jumping. But after bishop g7, it's pretty cooperative. Like they're gonna play bishop h6 anyway. I had like no idea what white was up to in this game, I remember. So probably if I want to show some interesting examples from my early play, I should at least go to a point where I started to have an idea of what people were up to. Because all of my games until I started to get a sense for the fact that some people had been training in chess, I was really just calculating a lot and not demonstrating any interesting strategic concepts. More like finding calculation-based exceptions to the rule, something like that. Yeah, this game's interesting, but not the kind of thing that I'm looking for, I would wager. Alright, so just moving on. Just gonna try to go forward until it makes sense. So maybe skip all of Super Nationals 2009. This is the New Jersey Grade Championship. Where I had white. Got a good position, but more by like brute force than anything. And now things are just like terribly unclear as far as I can tell. Oh yeah, I won this game like pretty easily. Yeah, not a very interesting game. Maybe just skip all of 2009. Alright, so now we're in 2010. A funny thing about this game, I think 10 years later, this guy who was playing black against me in this game played one of my students. And they had a similar outcome. It's just funny how people can stay more or less the same for like a whole decade in chess. I wonder if it would be interesting to show some examples eventually where like maybe I don't have special strategic knowledge, but I managed to thwart people's attempts with calculation. Like maybe it's good to show them as kind of the exception that makes the rule. So I wouldn't say that I ever played like super well in this early stages, although my results were pretty good. So it's mostly like I just let my opponents make mistakes, I guess, without really knowing it. For instance, in this game, I just kept attempting to make things difficult for my opponent, and you know, just following that sort of natural course of play. I wonder if I was trapping the bishop here somehow. Let's see. No, I don't think so. But yeah, just by following kind of like natural play, I was able to reach a pawn endgame where my opponent resigned in an equal position. They resigned here. And the way that they could secure the draw here is with king c6, because they have to get rid of that strong pawn. And then they have to come back. Actually, no, hold on. Yeah, so this is a draw. I don't remember this being the line that I calculated during the game back then, but I think that despite appearances, black is stealing several moves to get closer, because white has to win the g-pawn and come back. I think taking like this is probably very similar. There's no way to really make progress, because eventually you're going to get your king trapped. Like you'll have to go here and allow the king in front of the pawn, or you'll have to go here and accept your stalemate fate. So this was an interesting ending to the game, where it's like there's a like kind of easy study like way to draw, and they just resigned. And a lot of my early games were kind of like that, where I don't even know what's going on. I'm just calculating stuff, and my opponents make mistakes. I don't think that players in the same rating category are as bad now. Not nearly as bad as they were when I learned how to play chess. Archwest is suggesting that we could work through Perfect Your Chess by Volokitin. Yeah, I'd be interested in reading that. I wonder if I have it. Let me check my notes. Yeah, actually I have it. You know what? Why don't we crack it open right now? I've never read it. It's been on my list. Give me 1 second to set it up. I think we could get it going. It looks so bad right now. Hold on, let me correct my errors. Learn, study, make a study. Volokitin, perfect your chess. Of course, what else? Your chess. Okay. How does it look now? Give me 1 second, you guys. It's cool if some of the puzzles are debunked. A lot of the older books are actually more instructive because of like the idea that they were difficult to figure out as humans but possible to figure out as engines. I'm totally cool with that. Now I just have to make this like normal human sized, this book panel. Okay, we do this one and some of these. Little bit small. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me because this is, you know, a little bit of a pivot, a new direction. Have to rearrange slightly. Okay, I think this might be where we're at in terms of starting out this book. I mean, why not? Let's just do it. So in the table of contents, we have examples from the play of the author, 100 graded examples, which I assume they mean increasing level of difficulty. Solutions for Make a Move, which is probably the name of the previous chapter. It says Find the Win, again. Okay, so I guess it's structured like we have examples from the author's play, a bunch of graded examples, and then solutions. And the three major themes are Make a Move, Find the Win, and Answer a Question. So Answer a Question comes off to me as a strategic topic. Find the Win is probably a tactical thing. And Make a Move, I guess we'll see. I'm going to grab some water since this is a turn in a different direction. 1 second. Alright, cool. So, let's go into it. To business. Yeah, I'm glad that you decided to hijack this train. I came in today with the notion of just being flexible and doing something different from normal, so I'm grateful for the suggestion. The Little Prince is a really good book, by the way. They're quoting it here in the introduction. If you guys have never read The Little Prince, it's been translated into almost every language, and it's quite nice. Okay, let's see. I'm going to quickly read this. How does one usually start writing a book? Okay. Typical author stuff. Why is the book needed? Yeah. Okay. 369 highly interesting positions. If his goal is to bring aesthetic pleasure for lovers of chess, then it's not really important actually if the engines approve or not. So that's kind of encouraging. Let's see. Most of the games are since the year 2000, and this book is a little bit old, so let's see. So we have an artist. It's funny, he says that you should arm yourself with a strong cup of coffee. Normally I have one, but this is one occasion where I don't. Successful people are the result of hard work more than talent. Appreciate the Greek classics here. Let's see. He makes a point that many chess players overlook the need to work regularly on the development of their main tool, also known as their brain. I think it's an accurate statement still, just based on like working with other chess players. Like there's a focus maybe on seeing the trees instead of the forest, or maybe even the leaves instead of the forest. Let's see. It's good to analyze the game oneself, of course. And he says in this book, we do not try to teach you how to play better chess, but give you material with which to develop your thinking, which I appreciate. I really care much more for focusing on modes of thought rather than like chess-specific content, which you guys might notice just from seeing some of my streams. I have a tendency to focus on how you think about chess more so than the actual chess. I try to kind of fit them together, where you learn thinking techniques, but with specific examples that will help you. So I like books like this. This is all encouraging. He says the first 40 are aimed at the level of a FIDE master, the next 40 at IM level, and the last 20 at GM level. Okay. Alright, make a move, first chapter. With content in it anyway. Chess content. Let's see. So when he says make a move, it seems like we're focusing on the idea that you must find one very strong move in any given position, in every position. And the author suggests that this might not seem so difficult at a glance, because in itself it doesn't necessarily require that we calculate many moves ahead or appreciate subtleties. But it turns out that this is not such a light task. That's the author's thesis for this chapter. And he's saying which qualities will this section of the book help to improve, and his focus is on intuition. So he set the task to choosing positions where it's sufficient to suggest only one move. This, in my opinion, is a very rare situation. Like almost always, I'll tell students that you need to give at least two moves, where it's like there's a first move that's good, and then you have to try to give the best response from your opponent, and one more move that demonstrates your idea. But maybe it's a semantic difference. Maybe for this author, suggesting one move implies that you've seen their best response and the demonstration of your idea. So maybe it's like we're just finding one idea. Okay, and this is a really important topic to cover because very few books actually address such things. They're mostly focusing on tactics and improving your calculation and stuff. Okay, so here we have the author's games. And I'm going to search up the games and then populate them into the study so we can look at it in Lichess. So give me one moment to do that. So the first one is Ponomarev. Hello Triangle Cool Guy, welcome. These guys have played a few times, so looking for a position with this pawn structure. Yeah, I'll be careful not to see the answers. I'm actually pretty good at searching up a game, like getting enough information to know it's the right game by looking at the opening, and then never even reaching the position where they're showing a move. I've developed lots of practice from using this method for myself. It's good not to spoil anything. Alright, so we're looking for a position where they've played g5 and the king's on f2. So let me see the moment where they play g5. Is the knight hanging the diagram? No. So one more. Is this her position? Alright, and it's black to play. So this is it. On move 31. Okay, so I will fast forward to move 31. Leave a critical moment. And now we think. From Lausanne in 2001. Alright, so we have black to play here. Knight d3 is played. And this whole chapter is supposed to be about one move type things. So mostly I would say candidate move searching is what's important. So all of black's pieces seem to stand pretty well. So probably it's time to strike. I suppose that white wants to play knight b4. So probably it's important to head off that idea. They might even want to play bishop takes f6 and then knight b4. Because after bishop takes, rook takes, and knight b4, the bishop and the d pawn are under attack, so we might have something like bishop c4, knight takes d5, and attempts to pin the knight on d5 to the rook on d2 will be unsuccessful because we could always support it with the rook on c5. And if you try to double down, like let's say rook d8, rook c5, rook f to d6, then there's knight f6 check, and if rook takes f6, then rook takes d8. So we can get away with taking this pawn, I'm pretty sure, as white. So white does have a serious idea. Well, the rook is attacking all the white pieces on the d file, so it could be knight e4 to try to open the file. Like knight e4, if they move the king, we take the rook. So pawn takes is forced. Now the knight is hanging, the bishop is hanging. Yeah, bishop d3 eliminates the threat, but I like my bishop. I don't really want to consider that too strongly if I can avoid it. I think knight e4 is probably it. Pawn takes, pawn takes. Now the bishop and the knight are hanging. I wonder about their notion that you should only have to see one move here, because I find myself trying to justify it with variations, like I'm looking for counterplay. But it seems like the author thinks that once you see the move, it should be done. So I'm going to just mark my solution, and we'll see at the end of the chapter what it is. Right, so I think it's knight e4 check. And I don't think I really need to see anything more. Because if they move the knight, then there should be e3 with the idea of taking on d2 and playing rook e2. So the black pieces are all fully active. I think this is probably where I would end my solution. Okay, let's go to the next one. I can always check this later on. So the next is Volokitin versus Jedniak, 2003. I'm going to search that up. Jedniak. Sometimes in chess space they spell their names really differently. So search just Volokitin in 2003. It doesn't appear that I have the game, so I'm going to set up the position. Knight c5, I'm not worried. Arch west, and I'll just show you why. So here, if knight c5, I was thinking just play e3. I'm threatening to take the rook. So this is the only move that makes sense. It's check, they have to take back, and then here. And now it's hard for them to really pick a useful move. Maybe I do have to respect this somewhat. They have to go here. I figured I would. Okay, maybe I should have checked knight c5, but then it's really not like one mover. Maybe I could do this. Yeah, maybe I missed this. I figured I would just take and then take everything. Like, am I missing something? They even have this move actually, so they don't even have to go on the back rank. This is not a great situation. Okay, maybe I need to think about that a little bit more. So knight c5. I could also move my bishop. I'm probably in just a very good position. Like maybe I go here. Like if they take it, I take here. Yeah, something like that. No, even this doesn't look so great. Probably a good time to slow down a bit. So knight c5 is there. Book looks kind of derpy. Let me see. Yeah, it's okay. So this is a critical move here. Well, I think e3 makes sense. Probably what I'm looking for is this move. Because I can take the bishop on e3 without losing my bishop on a6. Just had to go a little bit slower to notice this one. This threatens mate. I think this is pretty convincing. Yeah, I think this has to be it. Okay, I'm going to set the next position. I want to do at least a couple positions pretty quickly. Just because I only have like an hour to stream today. Hour total. Like half an hour from now I probably have to roll out. Alright, so what have we got in this next diagram? Okay, this looks right. Let me check the diagram again. Okay, it's white to play. And it's Volokitin versus Jedniak 2003. Yeah, I think it's better to spend time on puzzles if you can. Um, it's just always better to solve pretty slowly. But I think it's also good to try to avoid getting like puzzle paralysis where you just don't ever solve things because you're trying to play perfectly. So I like to do something kind of in the middle where I'm going like kind of briskly to get an idea of what kinds of problems are easy for me to solve as opposed to what kinds of problems are possible for me to solve. I think practically all problems are possible for me to solve, but I need to be able to do it quickly too. I'll eventually hit on the right idea if I just brute force everything. But that's unrealistic for actual tournament play. So here we are with white to play. This looks like the kind of situation where I ought to play rook b7. Rook b7, king b7, probably queen d5. Because I can play rook b1 really anytime. So I could throw this one in, queen d5. Pawn takes f4. Thinking a6 with the idea of king takes a6, then queen takes c6. That should win the game routinely. Queen trade possible, yeah. I don't think I would want to trade queens here because they have so many pawns. And there are pawn weaknesses for white. Like I could lose the a5 pawn, the a3 pawn, the c2 pawn don't look great either. They're passing one of the center pawns probably. So rook takes b7 is kind of enticing, but it could also be just a6. For instance, a6, pawn takes a6, queen takes d5 might be a good idea. Or even queen takes d5 with the idea of pawn takes f4, rook takes b7, king takes b7, queen d7. That looks pretty strong. My main issue with queen d5 on the first move would be that they could follow up with rook a d8. But maybe that's fine. Like if I play queen b5 and they have to play rook b8, I consider that a success because I snatch that d pawn, I take over the initiative. I have time to rescue my bishop, so I'm not even giving material. I think queen d5 is probably it. I'll play a couple moves on the board just to show my concept here. So if they take this, I want to play rook b7. And that's game over. If they go here, this is more or less immediately lights out. I'm just choosing like what rook move do I want to play here. At the very least, I could play alright, let's say this one. Maybe like this. They might have to like sack a piece here. For instance, rook d8, I could at least play this and win a piece. Although I'm more likely to no, I think that probably works just fine, like just win a piece. Could take and then play queen c7, or I could play queen c7, whatever. And then white has many pawns. That would be the main line if they, allowed this. So I think they can't actually take this bishop. I think they have to try something like this. If they use the other rook, I'm also like pretty happy because they're letting off the idea of rook h3. It's not working anymore. Here I was thinking queen b5. And if they're on full defensive like this, I think I'm pretty content with this situation. I think I'll probably choose something, slow, steady. Maybe not even keeping pressure on the e-pawn. I could even play bishop e3. Like, I think just once I see that they have to start defending, I'm pretty happy with queen takes d5. Triangle Cool Guy has the question, like, what happens if you trade queens? I think he's saying like this. I don't think I can really get black's pawns in this situation. Like, I think I'm understanding this question. It helps me more when you give variations, so I know exactly what you're asking. Santosh, welcome. I'm using ChessBase. Actually, no, I'm not using ChessBase right now. I'm using Lichess. No software right now. Like, I just have Adobe Reader open for the book. There's nothing special about this setup. It's very ratchet. Here, I don't think there's anything special. Like, I don't know. Just protect this pawn. Threaten to take that pawn. Seems pretty normal. Maybe even do this. I don't know. Like, there's just many ways, right? I think black is totally fine here. Even play this. I don't think this is a good move, but like I think it's probably playable with some advantage. And if queen takes d5, I think you meant rook d8, not rook d1. But this is the same kind of deal. Like, if they have to defend b7 passively, I'm pretty happy with the situation. And if they take this, there should be something here. For instance, if they keep running, they're gonna lose. Wait, I can take the knight imminently. Maybe they could go here. I just don't really believe this position. Their king's in the middle of the board. Maybe just threaten checkmate. Yeah, it seems fine. And if they don't take the bishop, like if they go back and defend, this is very nice. Like, I can probably just play a normal move here. With the idea of, for example, a6. Just disrupting. Their king will never have any shelter. This is all kind of my idea. But this chapter is supposed to be like one mover things. Rook b8. I could play queen a6 at least. Like, I don't think rook b8 is defending successfully. Well, this isn't like a composed position. I think that this is just a normal position from the guy's game. He just picked this as an instrumental moment. I don't think it's necessarily significant that like the rooks are on particularly interesting squares. I think we should move on to this one. At least I'm satisfied with my answer for now. If it's wrong, then I can deal. So next one is Ribley versus Volokitin. me search it up real quick to add it to the database. There's only one game with these guys, so this has to be it. It's from 2004. Yeah, that's right. Okay, and the position we're looking for is black to play, and the knight's hanging on c5, there's a pawn established on f4, there's a rook on a2. So I'm going to look for the one where they played rook a2. Alright, and the bishop a1 is played. And I think this is it with black to play. Alright, so bishop a1 is here. Black to play. This could be a good time to sack and exchange. You know, our knight's hanging. We have some good things in this position on the light squares, like their bishop on g2 is not doing very much. F4 could come up at some point. So if we play, for example, rook takes a1, rook takes a1, bishop takes d4, rook to... It's hard to pick a square that's super active for that rook. Maybe rook back to b1. I think black is very well established at that point, so I'm gonna play these moves. I think they should take, and take here. Maybe rook b1. And I could at least play e5. I don't know if I really want to, but I could also mess up their pawn structure. This is an idea. Yeah, I mean, this looks like an answer. Just sack and exchange and then play that. Yeah, this position seems good. Okay, so we're going to move to the next one. Volkov versus Volokitin. Alright, again, these guys have only played one game, so that must be it. Okay, now what's the position that I'm looking for? With queen on g5, pawn on f4, rook on c2, there's a pin, bishop on d6. Okay, so I'm going to look for where they played g4. That's probably a critical moment. Alright, so g4 is just played. This might be my position. Quickly check. Yeah, I think this is it. Critical moment. Look at all this hype in the chat. Next popular chess master. I hope so. I mean, I at least hope to be a chess master. I mean, I am, but like I want to be a better one. Candidate master is like kind of a sad title in some sense, because I don't know, it's like the not respected title. There's some very strong candidate masters. I wouldn't say I'm one of them, but you know, I'm doing other stuff. Right, so our rook is kind of hanging. I'm not sure I care. Knight's pinned. That's kind of annoying. We have control of the second rank. That's kind of good, but we don't have an idea like rook b8 to b2. Their king is unsafe. Knight on c3 is kind of hanging too. Like if that rook ended up busy, that would probably be a problem for white. If I ever managed to get something like bishop d4, they could always at least play king h1. So I think I need to open more lines to attack their king. At least in the meanwhile, it's going to be difficult for them to launch a successful campaign with their knight pinned and their king kind of open, and the rook stuck defending the knight. Probably their next move will be a rook move. It'll either be like greedy bishop takes f8 or something like rook to e1 or rook to d1. Something like that. Maybe rook to b1. So we need to start something right now. Something where I just don't even care if they take on f8. That would be ideal. Otherwise, I think I have to make a kind of sad rook move. Maybe rook e8 to prevent rook e1, but then they always at least have rook b1 and then rook b8, so I don't think it's that useful, because I would be spending a move and then they're just trading their worst rook for my I guess objectively worst rook. Rook e8 to e2 is an interesting idea, for sure. But I think that they are heading it off with rook b8, right? Like rook e8, rook b1, rook 8 to e2, rook b8 check. I guess you could... No, that's just like a losing position, right? Because bishop f8, there's rook takes f8. And if the rook on e2 is so strong, I could just play queen takes e2 and get rid of it. And that would free up all of white's pieces. I would be worried about their queen getting active with my king still open. But with the rook already on the back rank and like bishop f8 happening, that's not quite working. Bishop f4 is also happening. I just realized that. h5 rar might be a thing because they're weak on the light squares. And I can attack on the light squares with the rook and the queen. I'm just not really able to effectively use the minor pieces or this rook on f8. So in that sense, if I can start an attack quickly, I don't care if they take that rook. I just want to get going. So let's say I play h5. If they take, I take with the bishop. They play rook b1. I take on g4. That's actually already winning. So they actually can't even allow pawn takes g4. But what if they play like... What are they even playing? It's one of those moves where like once you see it, you kind of know, I think. Maybe h5, bishop f4. Something to just take the pressure off. But I could probably play like queen g6 or something. No, because then they can play g5. So I actually need to do something right away. But what is the move after bishop f4? It kind of feels like a win in the sense that they're not even threatening to take the rook anymore. But I also want a follow-up. I want something good here. Am I missing something obvious? Like, I don't see what to do here. I was thinking something like queen h4, but it's not really much. Like g5, and then what? Maybe rook e8. Maybe when they're distracted, we have time to play rook e8. Well, I think h5 is more promising than anything else I looked at. So I would go with h5. I don't know if my follow-up is correct, but that's my sequence. h5, I was thinking they would probably take this. We could go here. If they want to avoid, then they're going to be in for a lot of trouble. Oh, but they have g6. No, I'm fast enough. Like, am I? I'm not sure. This is probably more complicated than I thought. probably something really simple here. Like, that was not even a forced line. It's just something that didn't work. I kind of wish I could just take on g4. But getting a rook for a queen in this kind of position is not really fantastic. I think I would rather play h5 and then sack. Because when I play h5, they don't actually have to react for a couple of moves. So if I'm down material, they could probably like offer some piece trades. Maybe queen f6. Just bullying these pieces. Like, they can't move the bishop because the rook's hanging. If they play it, some move like g5, I can trade pieces and then win the game, I think. I don't think any of white's moves are recommendable here. So this is probably more like it. Queen f6. I'd be concerned about this, maybe. But even here, you know, I'm not sure that this is really so bad. Like, I'm just gonna take this rook. Yeah, I think this is probably it. Some idea to play queen f6. So what if I just play queen f6 in the first place? Maybe it is just queen f6. I was thinking h5 and then they do something and then I play queen f6, but this is very strong looking. Maybe they're gonna do this. Maybe this is the problem. Well, I actually have to run really soon, so I think I will look at the last one, then we can look at this page. I kind of like h5 because I already looked at this enough to think it's good for black. Like here, if they take this, I was planning to take here, so this kind of neutralizes that idea. Like, these pieces are gonna hang. They're just not gonna make it. I'm just gonna ignore this bishop for now. Okay, let's get the last one and then look at the answers real quick, and then I have to split. What is our last one? It's Korobov versus Volokitin. Alright, these guys have played a bunch of games, so I'm looking for a position from Kharkov. Escape from Kharkov. Alright, I found Kharkov. Korobov had white. And in this position, there's a queen on b7. Just give me a second, guys. I'm just searching these games. Alright, this game has to be the right one. Alright, and it's the position with the queen on b7. So we fast forward to this position. Is that it? No, the bishop's on d6. Alright, so this one's black to play. Critical moment. Yeah. Chess would be really different as a first-person shooter, especially if you have to yell whenever you're reloading in the middle of the playing hall. It'd be like a Scholastic tournament where people still insist on saying check. Check, check. Alright, so I guess the first question is, why can't I take this bishop on d6? The answer is probably queen b8. Yeah, I don't see any like clever follow-up where I sack the exchange to get king h7 and then play like, I don't know, queen e1 or queen c1 or some knight move. It all just looks like it's not coming together. So I want to take that bishop. What are they trying to do aside from just entice me into taking this bishop? I guess they want to take on a7. It would be kind of cool if I could like play rook takes d4 and then c3 and then c2 and then c1, because that rook is pinned. They're not really doing a great job of defending that situation. No, most people don't say check in tournament play. It's pretty uncommon, not because you shouldn't do it necessarily, but because some people are extremely irritable, and at a certain point everyone knows how to say check. I mean, everyone knows when they're in check. So it's just typical not to do it. But in scholastic events, especially for young kids, they like saying check a lot, so they'll tend to like to start screaming check all the time. I have some other ideas here involving like opening the d file to get rook d1 in, but even then I'm not sure that's really working. King g2 is a pretty snug situation. Situationship. I'm wondering what happens if I like just pass the turn, like move my king. They could trade queens, but then I could take their bishop. So if I play like king h7, they have to play a bishop move, like bishop e5, threatening mate probably. That doesn't look so good. It's pretty dangerous if they can get like, if they can defend against checks with like rook g2 and attack g7. Maybe I should play like knight takes d4 or something. Yeah, I think the mate is pretty much unstoppable. I could actually play rook g8, so I'm not like dead, but it doesn't look fun. Well, maybe it's not so bad. You know, like I play king h7, bishop e5, rook g8, and now they can't improve their rook quite yet, so they might play like king f1. Probably, oh no, king f1, there's knight d2. That'd be really nice. So, but they could probably trade queens. I'm not sure I really want to trade queens. With the king on h7, queen e4 is check, and that's not so good. I don't think so. Okay, so it should be something pretty quick. So let's say knight d4. Bishop e5 is impossible at that point, so they have to take with a pawn. I could play c3, bishop e5, and then I'm in trouble again. But this seems really promising. Oh, come on, Arch. You're that person at the Starbucks playing your chess live stream out loud? How could you? Tisk tisk. I'm probably going to end the stream because some people are waiting for me now. So don't stress over it. I think I have to go. So here, I think I should play knight d4 and just play with 2 pawns. Like I want to push the c pawn. This prevents the active idea of bishop e5. It maintains the pressure on f2, and I'm pushing the pawn. I I think if I skip ahead to the answers, that'll be like more of a spoiler. So maybe I'll just continue this until I'm done with the whole chapter, and then we can do a session where we look at the answers. All right, so first page is done. I might just continue this and make it a series per Arch's recommendation. Alrighty, guys, I am going to split because that's what I have to do for my real life responsibility. So I'll talk to you guys next time. I expect to stream again tomorrow. I put up an official schedule on Twitch, and I'm going to do my best to follow it. Alright, take care, everyone. Good luck with your chess. Yeah. Good Tuesday to you too, Triangle.